Hey, Betsy.
Hi, Brenda.
How are you? It seems like it's been a little bit since we've
Hi.
done one of these,
I know,
and
I
that's
know.
probably more my fault than anything.
No, hey,
Hey,
that leads right into the episode. We're going to talk about mom guilt. There's no friend guilt, podcast guilt. We're
okay,
not doing it.
that's awesome.
I mean,
So the one thing that I just did was went to New York City, my daughter,
that's awesome.
and it was so fun. I went to visit her. We took the train into the city.
Have you either ever been?
I've been once for work several years ago before kids even,
Okay.
and all I did then was work, went to dinner, back to the hotel.
It's so
Anything.
funny. I traveled for work all the time
Mhm.
too, and I traveled to fun places, but people have this perception of work travel as this glorious
Oh, yes, you
experience.
get to see all these
You could just, it's
no,
so awesome. I'm like, yeah, airport, Uber.
exactly.
You may or may not have been able to see a little bit of sun on your face, depending on
Something out the
where.
window as you're driving by. Exactly. So,
It just doesn't count.
this was really my first time there just to see the sights. She's been there a couple times because she lives close enough,
Yeah.
but I really relied on her for all the transportation because I'm kind of old and I
Yeah.
didn't really do a lot of that. We went to this little Italian restaurant and we had the mimosa and some
Perfect.
really delicious food, so that was fun. Walked through Times Square, checked out some of the sites, but
And how cool is it that it was just the two of you?
it was awesome. It's
Yeah.
great to be able to just connect one on one. But in true us fashion, you'll appreciate this. We tried to pack in a lot and we're a little off schedule. I'll just say that. A little off schedule.
So if we haven't talked about this, Brenda and I have this huge issue of always being just a smidge late.
Yeah. We like to
Sometimes
pack a
more
lot in.
smidges than
Yeah.
others. But yes, I fully appreciate that you would pack it all in and that you were running a little bit behind where you needed to go.
We were taking subways, trains here and there, and to get everywhere. So again, I relied on her
Yeah.
because I just followed her basically wherever she went. She's like, "All right, we need to get on. Let's go to this station, meet up at this stop." I was like, "Great, that's awesome." So we got off track a little bit because when we got out that time to go to the show, I was like, "I thought we came out the wrong entrance last time. Should we go over this side?" And she's, "Yeah, we probably should." So anyway, took a wrong turn.
Oh
And we
no.
were already pushing a little bit. So
Oh
we ended up
no.
having to turn back around, go out the original entrance. And we were just booking to the theater. And so we were like, okay, well, it still hasn't started. We still have time. We get to the theater, we still see people walking in, but we get in line and right behind us, they pull the barricade.
Oh
You
gosh.
are the last one
You
there.
made it. And I call that winning.
I guess we did.
That
Wow.
is fabulous.
Oh my goodness. So we get inside and we see the line for the bar. I said maybe intermission we could come in and
Yeah.
get a drink. So that's what we did.
Good thing you had mimosas
I
earlier
know.
because otherwise you would have been
I
alcohol free
know
going into a
exactly.
very long show.
At intermission,
Yeah.
first one's there. At the end, she was crying. I had
Uh,
tears in my eyes. I felt myself smiling like all the way through it, but it was just a me, just an awe after that. But getting there was was
yes.
something else.
So, Brenda, have I ever told you about my issue with sense of direction? Have we ever had this conversation?
I don't think so.
It is well known with my people that I worked with over the years that if I was the travel partner, I 100% could not be responsible for getting people from point A.
No, I
I
don't.
I have been lost. I can't tell you how many times I've been lost going to kids' sporting events. I have zero understanding. The idea of going into a downtown city where my nav might not work, walking or driving,
Right.
I get panic attacks almost because I know that I am going to lose where I'm supposed to be and have no idea which way is north. I lose all sense of direction. So I would have had complete panic attacks if it were me and we had gone out the wrong
Mhm.
direction and had to retrace the steps to make it there.
Oh my gosh.
I rely on others so much in those spaces. I'm a rather intelligent person. There's a lot that I can figure out in life, but figuring out which way I came from and where I go. I use them all the time.
Yeah,
All
I
the
do too.
time.
And some people have it, some people just don't. I did learn something though that might be helpful. I finally said to her after the weekend was almost over, how do you know exactly which entrance to go in for their
Yeah.
subway based on the address we were trying to find?
Yeah.
And she said, Google Maps or Apple Maps. You just go into it, you punch in the address like you would if you were driving.
Yes.
And there's a little icon that is like trans for train or something. You click that and it will tell you which one to go to. I
Really
thought she was doing something extra
magical.
special and
Yeah.
she
You
knew.
gave her all this credit. You're like, I'm taught
And
so well.
I rock as a mom because
My
my
kid
knows how to navigate this.
Yeah, that's awesome. So today we're going to talk about mom guilt, and these are some awesome stories. But overall, years ago, when you started your career and you thought, I'm going to be a mom someday and I can do all of this, would you have had any idea the mom guilt that you feel as you go through all of the different experiences you go through as a career person, as a mom? You could separate those, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or not, right? There's always something. Would you have
Absolutely
ever
not.
been able to?
I
Yeah.
would have never had an idea of how much I would feel that
Yeah.
guilt.
I can remember when I was pregnant with my first child, a team that I worked on won an award, and the prize was a trip to Hawaii or something. It was a huge trip. And only so many people on the team could get this trip. And it was supposed to be a month after I was due with my first child, something like that, maybe a month and a half, but it was rather early. And I can remember talking to my manager and saying, it's fine. I would love to go on the trip. I know I'm going to have this child, but my mom will be able to stay with her and I'll be fine. It won't be a big deal.
Right.
And he had 2 children at the time and he was like, "Mhm, sure. I have to choose how many people are going to go and who they're going to go. And you did great work and would love to have you go. But I just think it's best that you use your maternity leave how you should and that you not go." And I was so frustrated. I'm like, who are you to say if I should stay home or not? It was 2, 3 days after birth. And I looked at my family and I was like, I never would have been able to go on that trip.
Right.
Ever, ever. It was probably a month and a half before I even left for 2 hours.
Right.
It was 11 months old, and I still remember it to this day before I left overnight. And I know I had the luxury of being able to do that. Not everyone has that long before they have to leave their child. And I'm sure I didn't do that to wait that long with the other 2.
Yeah.
You want to be always around this human that you
Yes.
is yours. It's just crazy.
It is crazy how it changes so fast. All of a sudden, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I do need to balance this, but then you feel this guilt. Okay, I want to be with this child all the time. But for me, I just wasn't a person who could stay home with my child and
Mm,
feel fulfilled. And I was always envious of moms who decided that's something that they could
I
do
agree.
because I had the mom guilt of for me to feel rewarded. I want to actually go to work. So that's when you go back to work after your first maternity leave. You're like, and it begins.
I agree. And you're relying on other people to help you raise this child. And there's guilt with that too. So definitely, I have so much respect for the moms that can
Yeah,
see
be
that all the
fulfilled. Yeah,
time.
yes, completely
It's
agree. And
something
be
I feel
good.
guilty about.
And be good because you're, it's stressful. All
Yeah.
of it's really stressful.
It's hard work
It's
too. It,
Either job is hard
it
work.
is.
The
But
one big, huge benefit that I found was I could escape,
mhm,
right? When it was super stressful at work, I could escape when I walked in the door
mhm.
or when I walked out of my office, depending on where I was at. And that little human
Yeah.
that is yours came walking up to you with those big smiles, right?
Yeah.
When it got too much, when you had crying child that you could not console because colic is taking over
Mhm.
or whatever it might be, you could escape that stressing situation into this world of work. So being at home all the time, no way. I can remember a couple stories. One, my mom was a teacher when she had us, and my brother was very colicky. So she had me, and my brother was younger than me. We were 18 months apart. I was 18 months old when along came my brother. She had a short maternity leave as a teacher, and then she was going to take a 2-year hiatus and
Okay.
stay home with us.
Mm.
And so he was so colicky, and they were up all night. My dad said, you cannot go to work. You haven't had a week of sleep. You've got to stay home. And she said to him, if you think that I'm staying home with that crappy child, think again. No way. I don't care how exhausted I am. I need a break so that I'm my best self. And I remember that story. I get that, right? You have times where you're just like, I need a break
Right.
from whatever the world that I live in. So you send your kid to daycare or have someone come in, whatever you do. You're sure this other person is never going to be good enough.
Okay.
So I sent my baby girl after multiple interviews, send her there and you think it's going to be okay. It was a short time, 2, 3 weeks in. I go to pick up my daughter and she has bite marks on her cheek.
Oh.
And mind you, she's what
A
at this
baby.
time, maybe 5 months old
Yeah.
at the time that she had gone back to after maternity leave. I was like, what in the world? One of the other kids had a problem with biting, which if you've ever had a biter, it is a horrific situation because you can't understand why they're biting. Very hard to get them to stop. You feel empathy for the parents. However, if you're the bitten child,
It's
parent of
a
a
bitten child.
exactly, you have a different perspective,
Yeah.
not as understanding. So at that point, went back into interviewing and interviewed another 7, 8 homes. They're like, we're yanking her. This is not a good environment. No way, no how. To find out it actually was the best situation based on all the other ones. I mean, I can remember in one of our interviews, it was for an in-home care. This daycare center had 2 huge Dalmatian dogs. The whole interview with this caregiver literally attacking the sliding glass door
Oh my goodness.
to try to get in. She just went on about the interview like it was no big deal, and I could not. Anyway, yeah, I can't be in all places and nothing will ever be good enough, but it's
Right.
hard to accept.
It is. It's very hard. Still to this day, our kids are older.
Oh, yeah.
And I told you about a story earlier that made me feel somewhat guilty on should I have let go? Should I not have let go?
Right.
Should I let her learn something on her own?
Yeah.
I was very upset about the situation, or should I have stayed and helped? Which
Right.
is what I did. Right. But then it was like, oh, maybe you should just let me deal with that. Like,
Yeah,
you
sure.
feel guilty, like, okay, did I do the wrong thing?
I feel like 80% feeling of failure all the time, right? And you're just
Totally.
like, oh,
And that's just not something we all talk about.
no,
It's
it's
like,
not. Yes, you cry in the
you
shower.
cry unless we have a friend. Like,
Yeah.
the more we talk to other moms and through the
Right.
years,
Once
we
you start
know
having the conversations, you totally understand that this is what other people go through.
people just don't want to talk about it
No.
because you think it's just you.
Right. This late problem has been an issue for me always, trying to get to the parties because there's only so much time you can take off work.
Yeah.
You want to use that for vacation.
Exactly.
But yet there's so many sporting events and so many school parties and so many things that ask for volunteers. You want to be that super mom,
You
right? I'm going to
do.
be at all this stuff.
Yes.
Okay, we need to be at the track meet at 4 o'clock. The first event are field events, and that starts right at 4, and it's 2 hours away. I can't navigate compass.
Oh, an
So,
extra hour.
do you know how many times I've sprinted through parking lots trying to make or dance? Same thing.
Yeah.
You have a 2-minute window where you're trying to make sure that you can get in for those different dances, and they could be running an hour ahead, hour behind. If you don't have the luxury of just sitting there and waiting, you gotta time it just right with all the things that are in your schedule. And you can see it. If you sit in the parking lot, you can see you're not the only one by all of the running parents.
Yes. Okay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there have been times too where you walk in just as the dance is ending. So
Yeah.
again, that guilt out trying to be everywhere all at once. And
Yeah. And
it's
then
just like a story that I have when my daughter got her academic letter at school. So I like to be there for those things as much as I can, just
Yeah.
like you were mentioning, but the academic pieces of it, I really want to make sure somebody's there when they have those ceremonies. So she is in the middle of the pack in terms of the last name. So
I already know what you're going.
I'm sitting there watching all the rest go out. They get up, they stand in line, announce the name.
They're
And
alphabetical order, so it's
alphabetical
easy.
order. No, right? It's her turn. She gets in line, got my camera ready. I am just watching, just so proud. Oh, there she is. And I'm watching with this pride. And all of a sudden, I hear her name called, and I look at my phone, and I had not hit record. It was too late. They had already said her name. I hit record. I see her walking across the stage. But oh, there we go. This whole 2-hour show, an hour in, and I can't even get it right to get my daughter's name on the recording.
My favorite is when I hit record after the scene. So what I've recorded is my leg
Yes.
or the bench with some of the other moms.
Mhm.
If we get someone else's shot, then
Yeah.
we'll send it to the other one
Yeah.
because 50-50 chance we got the right images.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh,
did
so
the
many
same
times.
thing just a few weeks ago, a dance recital, and I had my camera up. I hit record and watching the dance and moving my phone. When the dance was done, I'd look and I didn't actually hit record. I just thought that I did.
Yeah.
So I recorded this whole 7-minute dance in my head. And I had
Don't you
nothing
wonder
to
if
show.
somebody's sitting behind you and they're like, that mom thinks she's recording.
Already thought that this time because they were sitting directly behind me. And they're like, really? I'm tempting something that is not happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure other moms have that one. I could get it from.
Yeah. And like, it takes a village. There were a couple different moms at that same ceremony who called me and said, how'd you even know that this was happening? I can't get out of work. Can you please take pictures and record my child so that I actually get to experience this too? And I happen to be available. So I could go, like, I got you. I happen to be at this one. You have these couple
Yeah.
parents who are like, okay, I don't know if this person's covering it. I'm just going to
Yeah.
cover this and then we'll figure it out
I know
later.
so and so's
Yeah.
at work today couldn't
Yeah.
get off, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Maybe they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does take a village though. I all help each other.
So one time I did, and I think I mentioned this in one of our, maybe in our intro, how when you work from home, you don't get that decompression. You just walk out and there's your family.
Mhm.
And so you don't actually get that moment to, okay, I'm switching over from this world to this world. So I'm going to be able to juggle this and adjust accordingly with how I behave. So I've had a bad day at work. And that is a stressor. It's something that you try really hard to compartmentalize. And I've done okay over the years compartmentalizing in my two worlds. I do bring them together quite often, and it's pretty funny actually to listen to my children mock my sales language quite accurately when they have no understanding of what I do, really, or how I've done it. They can actually use all the acronyms in appropriate sentences, which is hilarious to me.
They
And
are
that-
listening.
yeah,
don't.
exactly. I was really frustrated with my son for something. And I can't even remember to this day what the situation was or what brought on this discussion with him. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, you are just taking work out on me. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, oh. And how do you, in that moment, you're like,
Yeah.
time out. I'll be back.
Right.
I need a moment. Mom needs a little time out here to just really understand, am I?
Right.
Or is this a situation I should expect a different action from him? But holy cow, that's something that is in his head.
Yeah,
Uh,
makes you stop and think and
oh,
reevaluate. Even yeah. It could have been he was getting in trouble for something.
right. It
Yeah.
could be completely unwarranted what he
Right.
said.
But
But the fact that it's a thought,
exactly. Yes.
you're just like, oh man, yeah, I try not to do that. I try to keep my world completely separate. But somebody told me once that when they have issues at home and they come into work, the transparency is super important. I've had people, and I've seen this and I've done this, where you start meetings, you're like, you know what? I just want to tell everybody right now, today's been a rough morning in my house. We don't need to go into details, but things didn't go as we needed them to go. And I'm just coming in a little bit, my
Not
bright,
myself.
cheery self
Yeah.
that I might be bringing
That's
to
great
this.
advice.
Yeah, because they might not know, and somebody might think I'm gonna make this a little bit confrontational in this work situation to see if we can come up with a better solution. May then pause for a second and say, maybe not today. Yeah, so maybe I'll wait
Maybe
until
another day.
we're
The
having a break.
situation I was talking to you about earlier
Yeah,
at work.
yeah,
the same thing happened. It was an off day for me. I just wasn't feeling myself. I had a couple things going on. And so I did finally say, "Hey, here's what's going on
Yeah.
today. And I might be a little bit off, and here's why." And the person was super receptive,
Yeah.
and understanding.
Yeah. Or you don't
Um,
actually have to be a super person. We put these bars so high
we do.
and we're
And
human.
everyone else is too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
we do have this feeling of having to be perfect in every scenario. It's just too much sometimes.
yeah. As you travel for work, you lived through this too, right? You have to divide and conquer all the time.
Mhm.
My goal is to be there for everything. When I was in high school, my grandpa, who was awesome, we actually got him a basketball team jacket
That's awesome.
because he was the one who came to every single event. He was retired and he was all in, and we all knew that we could count on him up
Mm,
in the
yeah,
stand. As a parent, you just want to be there for
exactly.
everything.
You want people to think of you like
Yeah.
they did your grandpa. It's
Yeah,
the same thing.
exactly.
My dad was the same way.
Yeah,
Every person on my team knew that my dad would be there no
yeah,
matter how far we were.
yeah.
And again, I want the same thing for my kids,
Yes.
that they knew that one of us would be
Be in
there.
the stands. And it's hard sometimes. Last year, I have a track athlete, and like dance, track, you have 30-second
Yeah.
windows, whatever the time might be,
It's
but it's 4 hours long,
but
and
you have to
you have to be there for that moment. And I had a flight that was canceled. I was in Chicago, flight was canceled. And so I wasn't going to get home for this track meet. But as a mom, you're like, but maybe, right? Like,
Maybe
I don't know. It's only, I could make it in a drive if I sprint to the rental car place, go through 5 different companies to find the one will finally give me a one-way rental, and then drive like a battle to get there. And I have people at the meet, my husband, "Hey, you've got 4 more races. You have 3 more races," right? Same with Dan.
yeah.
2 dances to go, 1
One
dance
dance
to
to go.
go. I ran through the parking lot, came in, sat down. She was the next heat to go.
You made it.
And the only thing my husband said to me is, "Did you get a ticket?"
No.
I'm good. I'm
Uh,
here.
yeah.
But the thing you want to try to, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to figure out a
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
Um, and you hope that your family sees it, right? Like you can't be there all the time, but man, you're going to try.
You're gonna try your best. Yes, you do hope that. And I think for the most part they do.
I think so too.
But it's still not without this guilt. You go to one of the parties and there's a couple kids that no one is there. Parent had to work, which
Yeah.
again, we all do that. But you felt for them.
Yeah.
And I never wanted my kids to feel like that. But yet there were things I had to miss that sure
Oh,
they
I'm
said,
sure of
"Oh,
it.
it was fine.
You just
We were
couldn't.
fine." And it's probably more us feeling that way than the kids' parties. Sure, they were like, "Oh, yeah, it would have been cool if you were there," but not totally devastated that we weren't able to. 'Cause we did try there as much as possible.
It's funny that you say that too, because like even field trips, they're looking for
Mhm.
parents to volunteer for field trips. And that's a big deal for a parent that's working.
It is.
You
It's a
got
lot
a
of
time. It's hard. I have all the respect in the world for teachers because you're exhausted. And that's just one day. And those teachers do that all day long, every day.
every
It's
single day.
crazy to me, but it's a big deal. And then when you go to the event and your child's, oh, you're going to be here. I was going to go with us friends group who's going to go with that parent. You're like, are you kidding me? I worked my world around to try to get here for this event. And it wasn't even in your expectation.
Exactly.
Oh my
And they
goodness.
really wanted to be with another group. You know? Yeah, I had some pretty big guilt early on in my kids' lives. So when my oldest was 4, I was pregnant and I went on bed rest at 7 weeks for
It
the
was tough.
entire rest of the time.
Yeah.
So 7 months on bed rest. And if I did get up and move around, I had contractions. So it wasn't like, oh, I could just go lay down for a
No.
couple of hours. It was,
Yeah,
I was in bed,
yeah.
go to the bathroom, get some food, go back to
Yeah.
bed. So my husband was basically the parent, the main parent,
Yeah.
and he did everything, her daycare and feeding her and helping with baths and all of that, getting her bed. So much guilt with all of that. But anytime I tried to get up and help, I knew I would be in the hospital again.
Exactly.
And she would come home after daycare, jump up on the bed. We would play games or read a story, watch a little TV. Sometimes we even ate together in
Yeah.
there. So we tried the best that we could, but it was a long time of feeling guilty. And I know it affected her, but we had already lost a baby prior to that.
Yeah. So you knew
And
what
so
the
I
risk
knew this
was.
is what would happen.
Yeah.
If I didn't listen to everything the doctor said, the baby came 4 weeks early and then she was in the hospital for 4 weeks. So there was just so much, but I know it helped her grow in other ways and
Oh, yeah.
empathy. She has a lot of empathy for people. And I know it taught her some things, but the guilt that came with all of that was a lot as well.
Reading all those moments. Yeah.
But then I would feel guilty if I got up and walked around and I had contraction for the other baby.
You have to do what's best
Yeah.
and really, those are serious
Yes.
implications if you
It was
choose not
life.
to
It
follow
was
them.
life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was life
Yeah.
there to prepare
Yeah.
someone.
And then a ton of people go through that, right?
They do.
Where they have to just sit tight for a while.
Yeah.
I think we don't really think about it as there's sacrifices all over the place, but the sacrifice that
Absolutely.
you gave to sit in that bed to make sure that baby could be safe is a lot.
It is.
It,
Yeah.
it,
You're right.
it's, but as a mom, how much credit have you given yourself for that?
Probably very little.
You just think about all the things you didn't do. You don't, right? You don't list the things that you did great or it's just, we go to the things, oh, I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there
Yeah.
for that. Instead of, I made sure that she had everything taken care of, even though I couldn't physically be there. Right.
True.
And so you just have to try to grab these moments of mom guilt and turn them into not the only voice that's in your head
Mhm.
to say, okay, this wasn't super horrible. This actually turned out okay. I'm just going to be okay with how much I was able to be there for the moments that matter. It was somebody who I used to work with, who I admire deeply, Diana Frost. She's a chief marketing officer at Kraft Heinz. And I heard her interview once. She is a mom and very successful at her career. And someone asked her, how do you do it all? That's a big job. And she said, I'm there for the moments that matter. And it really resonated with me because I'm like, that makes sense. Whether it be at home or for my team, I'm going to choose to be there for the moments that matter unapologetically. That's going to be my goal. And that's what I'm going to stick with.
Definitely some words to live by.
Yeah.
For sure.
So friends, I think we're at time. And
Wow,
this went fast.
That's
So
crazy.
we got lots of mom guilt stories. Unfortunately,
I was going to say, I don't even have them all checked off.
so we may come back to you with more mom guilt stories in a future episode. For right now, we'll stick with those. And please know that it's something that if you talk about, doesn't feel as bad. So I definitely feel like it's a good discussion for us.
I would say the one piece of advice, and again, we're not giving advice, but the one thing that helped me is to have someone to talk to about it. Because
Yes.
for the longest time, I've just
Yeah.
kept it to myself.
Yeah.
I must be
Just missing
failing
out
or
on, like,
doing something that
Yeah.
is not right. And come to find out, a lot of people go through the same thing. Just having an extra sounding board and another
Right.
person who may be going through the same things,
Right.
find out happens a lot. So just make sure you
Yes.
have a person that you can bounce things off.
Hey, am I normal? Am I losing my
Yeah.
mind? So with that, we will share our advice that Mima has helped us with over the years when it all seems like too much and the weight of the world is overwhelming. Just focus on lifting your coffee cup.
And drinking it one sip at a time.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.